All right, what's up, guys? So in my car, because it is still cold out, I am so over winter and being cold and flying with cold fingers and gloves and all that BS. Can't wait for spring and warmer weather. Hoping to get to Hawaii soon, but just wanted to warm up where I'm at currently. So regardless, I want to talk a little bit about the Sky app. Since I don't know a ton about it, I've flown my Nano Plus enough that I feel I have some kind of idea. I haven't tinkered with every single area of the app, but I figure I'll go ahead and touch on some of the areas in the app that I think are important to kind of know. A couple things that I think need to be notated towards Autel, like in histogram, for example, maybe a gimbal smoothness adjustment, so we don't have any way to adjust the smoothness of the gimbal, but they have some kind of flight control stuff. But let's go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna go ahead, and we got the Nano Plus right here in a little hard case. So this is that little guy, Nano Plus in orange. I would say it's a cool little drone. The image quality, I think, is better than the Mini 2, but the Mini 2 still is a more polished drone, but it's been out obviously a lot longer than the Nano series drone, so Autel did a good job for coming out with something that's pretty darn good. I don't think, as I said, it flies as well. It's not as finessed, but I think that will come hopefully with some firmware updates where we have a little bit more control over the flight characteristics of this guy. This thing always is kind of weird to get going. It always does this whole gimbal self-check thing, and I feel like it's kind of challenging just to get it to actually want to take off, but we shall see. I'm gonna go ahead and set this thing down right over here somewhere kind of safe on my dashboard. So I'm not used to flying out of the car, but this is going to be mainly a screen recording for the app. We got the controller, we got this little Agoz cable, which is really nice, so I'd highly recommend that. I'll put a link in the description so you guys can see where that's at. So I'm going to put my iPhone 13 Pro Max in here, and as you see, I can go ahead and just kind of bend the cable up, and now it stays completely, can you see that? It stays completely out of the way for me actually coming anywhere close to this. So that's kind of nice, because every drone I fly, it seems like the cable kind of gets in the way a bit. So it's nice that this one doesn't. I'm going to go ahead and force quit all my apps. So let me force quit out of everything. I'm going to start my screen recording, turn up my brightness, turn down my volume a little bit. And we're going to get this guy in the air. So let's hope that this thing will take off relatively easily, and we'll get into the Sky app. So the Sky app is kind of Autel's new app, not the Autel Explorer for the Evo 2 Pro and the Enterprise series drones. This is kind of their more consumer, kind of comparable to what DJI did with their Fly app. I actually really like the Fly app. A lot of people really don't like the Fly app. Personally, I think you have a lot of control over your flight characteristics. You got gimbal smoothness, you got different adjustments for cine and normal and sport mode, and this one is a bit more restrictive so far. So, I don't see how it always says, I don't know why it always stops screen recording somehow. Kind of frustrating. I don't know why that is. We're screen recording right now. We're going to go into the Autel Sky app. And then we got start.
Compass is abnormal.
It's going to
stay
say
away from the magnetic field interference area or calibrate the compass.
Yeah, I'm going to cancel out of that. I know I shouldn't, but it's kind of annoying because it's wanting me to calibrate, and I'm in the car. So do I want to calibrate really quickly? Maybe. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to walk outside. You can kind of stay with me. You're not going to see me. I'll shut the car door, but I'm going to go ahead and do the little drone dance, as a lot of people are familiar. So I'm going to hit start. I'm going to essentially rotate 360 degrees with the drone in that orientation. Now I'm pointing the camera up towards the sky. I'm going to do another 360. You can't see this, but just imagine the beauty of me doing a little dance in the parking lot. And there we go. Calibration successful. So I'm just going to go ahead and launch this guy.
Initializing aircraft attitude. Please take off later.
So it's saying, okay, let me get back in the car. There we go, back in the car. So now it's going to say self-checking. We're going to X out of that. You see that little safe to fly in the upper top left corner, which means we're good to go. So I'm going to take the sticks, I'm going to push them inward towards each other, towards the bottom. That's going to start the props. I'm going to make sure we're still recording. We are. I got obstacle avoidance on.
Home point has been refreshed.
And there we go. So we're going to go ahead and cruise. We got obstacle avoidance turned on, which, again, the Mini 2 does not have obstacle avoidance. So I'm sure the Mini 3 will have obstacle avoidance. Probably will have a bigger sensor, and I'm sure will be a really cool drone, but it will have geofencing. So you see how I'm yawing pretty slow? So I'm going to go ahead and get up a little bit because it's windy and I just want to make sure I'm not drifting or anything. But I'm yawing pretty slowly. So what I can do to control that, right now, if you see in the upper top left corner, I got standard. If I tap that, or my function button is programmed right here, this function button on the left side of my controller, I programmed, so if I tap that, it will go to ludicrous mode. Now watch how fast I'm going to yaw. So really quickly, because I have the parameters set up so ludicrous is basically everything fast. If I want to not do cinematic and I just want to get from point A to B quickly or get back home because I'm low in battery, whatever it may be, see what's down below really quickly. I'm going to have my gimbal speed fast. Everything is going to be set to fast in ludicrous mode. So let's start with this. We got 3 different speed modes with the Autel drones. We got ludicrous, or with the Sky app, I should say. We have ludicrous, we have smooth, which is essentially cine mode on the DJI series drones. And then we have standard, which is essentially normal mode on DJI drones. And in order to access all the controls, so from top upper left-hand corner, we got the little A, the Autel logo. That's going to bring us back over here. I'm not going to get really into this. This is like a little learning center and your album and your personal center with your, basically like your total distance and time flight, blah, blah, blah. So this is all of that area where you can basically manage your devices and connect to a new aircraft, for example. So you know that that's where that is. You got your flight logs, but we're going to go back into start to get back into the app. So basically from upper top left, we got the Autel logo, which will bring us to that screen right here. We have standard, so we have our flight mode that we're in. We got standard, ludicrous, smooth. Going to go back to the standard. We have the area that's going to tell us whether we're safe to fly or not. We have our GPS signal strength. We have a remote control signal strength. So both are pretty good. We got 5 bars for the remote and 4 or 5 for the GPS. We got our, I think that's our remote control battery level. I just charged this guy. I'm not even positive with everything else. I think that's our battery length. I think we got 24 minutes and 54 seconds until we're going to land. I can't tap that, which would be kind of nice if you could. We got obstacle avoidance on. That little green area is going to show if we have it on. I could actually tap that and it will turn it off. So after turning off, the aircraft will not automatically slow down and hover when it detects obstacles. Please fly with caution. So we're going to cancel out of that for now. And then from there, we have our settings. That's where we're going to access our settings. So the majority of the functions of the app. And then to the right of that, we got the little question mark, which is going to basically give us the little home area. It's going to show us where everything is, our flight mode, our equipment status, hardware information. So I just kind of touched on that. I didn't use that exact terminology. Signal battery level remaining, flight time, visual obstacle avoidance, long press to return home over there, shooting mode over here. So we have our shooting modes to the right-hand side where you see photo. I'm going to depress that little question mark, get rid of that. And now, as you see, we're going to go into the settings. So I'm not going to go ahead and get too involved. I don't want this to be a huge video. But we're going to go into safety. So safety, I got novice mode turned off. You can keep it on. Oh, you can keep it on. I can't change it because I'm in the air. But I have my max altitude set to really high because I sometimes fly in the city, but I would suggest not keeping it higher than 400 feet, especially if you don't have your 107. I would say keep this set to 400 for now, because that's legally how high you can fly, unless you have your 107 and you know what you're kind of doing and where you're flying. So I'm going to keep this back to where I wanted, but I would definitely not suggest flying 1,600 feet unless you absolutely know what you're doing and where you are, and if you can visually see your drone, which is going to be really hard with a Nano series drone. So we got our distance limit set to max. Oh, we have no limit. I didn't even know that. So I'm going to say no limit for now, but I wouldn't keep that there. I'm just telling you where I have my stuff set. Return the home altitude. That's going to be based and dependent on where you're flying. I'm going to keep mine at 200 feet roughly, basically to clear power lines and trees and buildings. I'm not anywhere where I have skyscrapers, so I'm going to keep that where that is. Home point, you could have it set to me. Aircraft customized. Right now, I normally have it set to me. So I'm going to just keep that off for now, but that's where you can choose those. I don't even know what customized does, but I'm going to not touch that basically for now. This is where we can calibrate our compass, which is what I just did. You can go ahead and calibrate your compass essentially before each flight if you really want to make sure and make certain nothing will happen with the flight characteristics of the aircraft, and you want to make sure that that's all good. This is your IMU calibration, battery information. So right now, my battery temperature is 84 degrees, which is kind of wild since it's kind of, well, I think it's 30 degrees out. It's not super cold. We have my critical low battery set to 8% because I don't want to have to rush. I rather have it give me the most amount of time. And then I have my low battery warning roughly, I'll put it at 20% actually. Boop, boop, come on. Where we go? There we go. Make sure we're still recording. So have that set to 20%. So that's where that is. Battery protection. To better protect the battery, the system defaults to self-discharge in 3 days. I guess that's fine. Battery health, basically 100%. Discharge times. So this is basically pretty simple stuff right here. Locate my drone. This is in case you lose your drone, which I did. And you can enable flashing and stuff. So that was kind of a pain when I did that. I clipped the tree and it went into the snow and fried it. But regardless, I used that to actually find my drone, so it did work. And then we have advanced settings right here. Obstacle avoidance sensor. So you can actually show the radar map or turn that off. So that's kind of nice that you have that option. And take off in attitude mode. So this is good for indoor flying, for example, but you got to be aware that it's not going to be locking into any kind of GPS, so it will be drifting and stuff on you. If you're not familiar how to fly your drone in attitude mode, then I would keep that turned on. And from there we can go to control mode, is where we can actually change the flight characteristics of each flight mode. So this is kind of important. So smooth is the cine mode essentially. I have mine both set to 8 right now. So if you guys want to know where it's actually at in my app for flying, this is what I'm testing out so far. And then standard, I'm going to probably go a notch up with everything. Let me see what standard is. So standard I actually kind of kept dialed down still, but a little bit more than smooth. And then ludicrous, you're going to see a lot quicker. Ludicrous, I have the turn aircraft speed, essentially the yaw speed. I would imagine that's what that is. So the yaw speed, that's going to be set really high, and the gimbal pitch speed, which is going to move the camera up and down, that's set really high as well. But what is this? Priority preference. Speed, prioritize the flight speed with stronger wind resistance, but the camera performance may be less stable. Video, prioritize the camera performance and the maximum. So you may want to pay close attention to this, because if you are in a situation where you have high winds and this little guy is struggling because it's only 249 grams, you may want to go into this and change it from video to speed and just hightail back and break the winds and just get your drone safely back home. For now, I'm going to keep it set to video, but just be conscious and mindful that that's there. So I'm going to go back over here. So essentially, flight mode is a big one. No, this is where you're going to be dialing in your drone. You can let me know in the comments below where you have yours set for now, but I have mine dialed down pretty slowly. And if you see right now, let me get out of this. So this is set to 8. This is me yawing at 8. and my camera going up and down at 8. I could actually move this thing. Let me go back in there. I wish there was a quick little way to get back into those settings. Maybe there is. I'm not sure if you can program one of the buttons, but I'm going to go in the flight mode, and I'm going to actually change the gimbal pitch speed to 5, and let's see how that is. See how it kind of stops? We need a smoothness setting, so when we let off the wheel, so Autel, we need a smoothness setting for the gimbal similar to DJI and their Fly app, so we can actually have this stop and go a little bit slower and smoother when we let off the little wheel. So that's a wish list kind of thing for this app. And then let me see where that is again. Control flight mode, standard 9 and 13. So you can see that's where that is. This is 9, or this is 13, I'm sorry, for the yaw, and 9 for the camera. Now, again, pay attention, flight mode, ludicrous, gimbal pitch speed 90, aircraft turn speed 120. So this is 120, cruising around, really fast, dizzying fast. There's my car. Let me wave. Hello. Point back over here. And then this is the gimbal speed at 90. And if you notice, it turns off obstacle avoidance too, so be conscious of that. So we're going to get back into standard mode and get back over here. So we're going to go into control. And now we can go ahead, after the flight mode, we can remote control customizable settings. So right now, I have my one little function button set to speed mode. And you can, let me see, speed mode, undefined. So you could have it undefined, basically doing nothing if you touch it. But I think it works really well to speed mode. Tapping this guy, as I said before, will allow you to change the speed modes. And then double tap will get you to pitch your gimbal down 90 degrees. So watch this. Double tap, down. Double tap, up. And that's that. So be aware of that. That's a good thing that I have mine set to. We got the RC calibration, which we can't do in the air. We got gimbal mode, so we got FPV or stabilized. I'm going to keep mine at stabilized because I don't want to fly this thing like an FPV, and I don't personally like that footage on something like this. We can enable the gimbal pitch adjustment, which will allow us to tip the camera. If you see, I'm going to go above, zoop. I can't do that if I have that set off, so watch. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Boom. And now when I go up on the wheel and push it to the right, it's not going to go past 90 degrees. Now if I go ahead and turn that back on, as you see, zoop, can go up higher. So this is good if you want to get a shot of the clouds, for example, or anything that has a little bit more sky in the composition. And it actually works really well for getting really slow flying of something, maybe down low. So for example, I just shot a little windmill with that video I just uploaded, and I was flying really low to the ground, getting the windmill kind of pointed up a little bit in the composition and in the framing, and it just looked really kind of neat. So that's an option for that, for getting creative. And then gimbal manual adjustment. This is also important. We can hit start. And now we can go ahead and adjust the level in the air in case the horizon isn't level. So by going left and right with roll, we can go ahead and adjust this, and that's that. So just be aware of this. This is where we can change it. If you're actually taking a picture or shooting some footage and your horizon isn't level, this is where you're going to go ahead and adjust this. I always get confused to which way I need to hit these little arrows, but if one way gets the wrong way, just hit the other arrow and it will kind of bring you to where you need to be, and then hit finish once it's level. Let me see what else I have. So I don't have any grid set up right now, but we'll get to that. Control, there isn't too much more in there, I don't believe. Gimbal angle, recenter or downwards. I'm just going to keep that as recentered. And I don't even know, I've never even played with that. So we'll keep that thing set to recenter where it defaults at. We're going to go into camera. And now we can format our memory card here, enable audio recording during video shooting. I don't even know what that's about, honestly. So my battery's getting a little bit low. If you see, I'm at 21%. So I'm going to get my battery warning to turn on
The
soon.
aircraft battery is low.
See that?
Please return to home.
So I'm not going to return to home because I have power lines and I don't like having the return to home function.
To home.
No, I'm going to cancel out of that.
Return to home canceled.
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead right now, just so you can see a real life thing. Switch to ludicrous mode because I just want to get this thing back home quickly. I can see the drone. And change out the battery. So let's continue where I left off. I actually had my little Sony turn off on me because it was in the sun getting too hot. So I had to go ahead and cool that thing down. But we're in camera, I believe. So this is basically where we can format our SD card. This little area, enable audio recording during video shooting. I'm not even familiar about that. So if you guys have played around with that setting, please let me know. Enable video buffering during video shooting. I'm going to keep that set to off. I'm not even sure what that does either, to be honest. So you guys can let me know if you can shed some light on those two. Grid is really important. So let's go ahead and turn those off for the moment. And as you see, we have nothing on the screen. And to me, I don't like that. As a photographer, now mind you, got a photography background, we want rule of thirds right here. We want the little cross here in the middle. We want everything. So if I turn it over here now, we can see this little crosshair in the middle is great for flying precisely and more precision kind of flying. If I know I'm pointing that thing in the middle, I can tell that I'm basically straight. This thing does veer a little bit, I think, personally. I'm going totally straight and see how it's going to the right? Not horribly, but it definitely does not fly as well as the Mini 2 in winds, at least. I know people will say, oh, you're not supposed to fly this thing in winds, but I fly my Mini 2 in the winds and it does handle better. But let me bring this a little closer back to me. But that is a good example of this little crosshair. So I'm going to go back into the ludicrous mode. Boom. Get it kind of back closer to my car so I can see the little guy. Where are you, little Nano? Nano is so small in the air. There we go. Now I spotted it. So I'm going to get back out of ludicrous mode. And the reason I put it out of ludicrous mode is because I want obstacle avoidance turned on when I'm just doing this kind of stuff, because I want to play it safe, of course. So we're going to go back over here. We're going to know that this is where we have our grids. So for me, I keep them all set on. Photo format, I'm going to always shoot JPEG plus RAW. I tell you guys that all the time because you're going to be able to get a lot more out of your RAWs, and they're small enough files, and memory cards are inexpensive enough that there's no reason not to shoot both, so you have them at your disposal in case you want the most out of your files. We got hyperlapse. Since I'm not doing hyperlapses right now, I'll keep it at JPEG. You can set it to RAW or video only. Pano, I'm going to keep it set to JPEG. I don't even do a lot of panos, honestly. Portrait, track, and night, we only have the option for JPEG. I'm going to keep my video format to MP4. You can keep it at MOV if you want to. My video encoding, H.264, H.265. Personally, I'm just keeping it H.264 for now. That's up to you. Download size, I'm going to keep it at HD, not the original, because you just don't need to unless you need to. If you want the original, know that that's where that option lies. Defog, we can keep on, off. You're going to keep that off unless you feel the need for it. That's essentially kind of like a dehaze thing in camera. So play around with that. Anti-flicker, I'm going to keep off. What else? Overexposure warning, you can keep on if you like. And let me see. Let me go ahead and toggle. There is a lot to this app, actually. So let's go ahead and just get this exposure. There's a bird coming at me. Let me see. Manual exposure. I'm kind of jumping. Whoop. Let's go ahead. There we go. Look at that zebra. Everything's blown out. That's what that is. So that's where that setting is. So if we go to camera again, right over here, overexposure warning, it's essentially that little zebra stripe. So I'm going to turn that off and watch. It will disappear. So just kind of be aware of that. We'll go back into where we were. So there's a lot to this app. I'm hoping this helps a little bit. We have add timestamp. I'm not going to add timestamp. I don't know why you would, but whatever. I guess there's applications for that. You can do a custom stamp, so maybe there's a reason. I'm not sure why you'd want that. Camera reset to reset the camera parameters. Image transmission, I'm not even messing with. So basically, I don't do anything with this. Just avoid that if you don't know. About, this is going to basically tell us what we're flying, an Evo Nano Plus. This is to check our firmware. Everything is current. If it wasn't, it would be in red, so be mindful of that. We got basically all our app information, battery serial number, blah, blah, blah. So that's essentially this part of the app. So that's that. So let's move on and just kind of skate through a few different things. I'm not going to get into everything. Portrait mode is basically, I think, for taking a portrait of yourself. So I guess I can do that if I want. So we have quick shot mode. We basically have flick, fade away, rocket, orbit. So I'm not going to get into those because I don't want to do an automated thing right now. That's a whole different tutorial, but just know that's where those lie. Portrait mode, again, is going to be geared towards taking a portrait like a selfie. So that's not my thing. I don't know what it's doing. So you guys can let me know about portrait mode, because I'm not going to play with that right now. So we're going to get out of portrait mode and back into the car, because as you can hear, maybe you can't, it's windy out. Holy crap. Okay, so we have portrait mode, which I don't know about. I tried. You can let me know if you played with that. Get creative with it. Let me know what you find out. We have photo mode, which essentially allows us the basic photo mode. I think everything is essentially automatic. We have our autofocus down below, manual focus, autofocus, 1 times, 2 times zoom, 4 times zoom. It's going to look really bad. Oop, let me see. There I am. Let me stick my arm out. Oh, forget it. I'm not even going to bother. Woo-hoo, hello. See my hand in there? Help, get me out. But the digital zoom is essentially to check out something. I would never shoot with digital zoom. So just know that's where that is and what those little guys are for. So I'm going to avoid personally quick shots because I'm not a big fan of them. I'm going to do my stuff manually. Portrait, I'm not going to mess with. This is kind of gimmicky to me. So I kind of wish that wasn't even there. Photo, I kind of wish wasn't even there either. And video is going to be same kind of thing, an automated video, essentially everything automatic, nothing that you have to kind of think about. That looks kind of cool though. Zooming into that little scene over there. Like, let me go.
Start recording.
With the geese. Look at that. Ooh, do a little. Ooh, everything's going to be. Oh, the drone's like right by me. So you got to be careful when you're flying zoomed in like that. But anyway, just a little cool little thing. That's my ADD. We got hyperlapse. So this is where we have hyperlapse, orbit, manual. I think we could change the settings over here. So this little area above the shutter button, that little red button, right below the question mark, you can tap that. And this will give you your different photo intervals. I would keep it personally at 2 seconds, and probably video duration more than 2 seconds. I'd probably keep it at like 6 seconds or something, 5, 6 seconds. And maximum speed, you'd probably want to go pretty slow, I would imagine, and just get some kind of movement, because if you're not doing movement during a hyperlapse, it will definitely be a lot shakier. We got pano, which we have the spherical, wide angle, landscape, portrait, that you can play with on your own as well. Pro is basically where I'm most interested. So Pro is going to be the settings that we would utilize as a professional photographer or cinematographer or filmmaker, whatever you want to say, pilot. You just want to be able to have Pro control, meaning the most manual control over your drone and over your camera as you can. So we got P, which is program mode. This essentially is going to do everything for you for the most part. You can set your white balance manually, which I'd highly suggest. You can go ahead and also do exposure compensation if it looks a little too bright or too dark. Plus is going to be brighter, as you can see, way too bright. negative is going to be darker. So that's 3 stops under exposed, but basically just know brighter, darker. And I wouldn't shoot in program mode personally when flying a drone. You can. I use it a lot when I'm shooting still photos with the camera, but I'm going to go ahead and set it to manual, which is the M. So this is where it's basically at. We want our ISO set to the lowest for the best image quality, so set it to 100. That just means the sensor's least sensitive to light. So the higher you go with the ISO, the grainier the footage will look and the images will look, but it's also going to give you more sensitivity to light. So watch when I go 6400, we basically got super bright overexposed image, but keep it set at 100 at any time possible because that's going to give you the best kind of quality for your photography and your footage. So this is shutter priority. Basically, we can control our shutter, but to me, there's no real reason to shoot in anything other than manual mode. Get used to shooting manually. You can adjust the aperture because it's a fixed aperture, but you can, and I think it's an f1.9, so it's pretty wide open, meaning it's going to let in a lot of light. So that means without filters right now on this bright sunny day, I have to keep my shutter speed basically at like 2,000th of a second, which is of course not ideal when filming. For still pictures, it's not that big of a deal. And one thing you want to do is have your white balance always set manually. So I have it set to sunny right now. You can see it looks pretty good. And below the shutter button too, be conscious, that's where you're going to toggle between video and still pictures. So one of the things you want to make sure you pay attention to is above the shutter button, we have this little line with the 2 circles. If we depress that, notice that we have this little area for our still pictures. So as a still photographer, this is really important. We have, if we click this, it's going to bring us into more settings. So we have basically a 4/3 ratio, a 16:9 ratio, which is going to be more of a movie type 16:9 ratio look, but I don't normally shoot like that. You could always crop it, but if you want to do that, you can. If you want to incorporate a still image into your footage, for example. But notice this 4/3, this is going to allow us to shoot essentially raw. So that setting only, if we go over here into that little gear icon and go in the camera, you can see photo format, we have the option to click JPEG plus RAW. If we go back and click this little area above the shutter button one more time and click this photo resolution and click to 8192 by 6144, that's going to only shoot JPEG. So let me click that. And you see it says 50 megapixel photo only supports single shot and the photo format is JPEG. If I X out of there and go over here into that gear again and go into camera, you'll see there is no raw setting. So hopefully that one day will give us a raw option. That would be really awesome, Autel, if you're listening. But just know that this is essentially where your resolution settings lie. If it was an important shot, I would shoot in the 50 megapixel resolution in JPEG, and I would also shoot in this resolution in JPEG plus RAW, and just make certain that it is set to JPEG plus RAW because that's really important to have the RAW file in case you want to get the most out of it and print something nice and large for a customer. So what else is there? Really, that's about it. I mean, it's kind of the gist below that little area below the shutter button where you can toggle back and forth from video. And over here too, I should say, when you have it in video mode, if you go ahead and hit above the shutter button, that 2 little line with the circles, it will give us the ability to change our video resolution settings. So I have mine set to 4K, of course. You can go ahead and choose your frame rate. I'm keeping mine at 24 frames per second. And if I go to 2.7, for example, let me see what we're able to choose. So still same kind of thing. Ideally, it would be nice to have 60 frames per second at 2.7, but we're not. So again, keep it at 4K and keep it at 24 frames per second. That's what I would personally tell you guys to shoot at. So that's my suggestion for that. But again, know that's where that lies. Down below, we have our memory card information, how much we have left to record. We have to the left, that little flight map. We have a distance. I'm 82 feet away. I'm 20 feet high. Probably more than 20 feet, but regardless.
The aircraft battery is low. Please
I
return
am
to
having
home.
a hard time keeping everything recording because batteries in the drone are going and my battery on my little camera went, it overheated. So I'm going to stop right here, but hopefully that gives you guys more than enough information. I know it kind of is a long walkthrough, but that's basically what it's going to take to kind of get a little bit familiar. Essentially, just be aware. I would shoot in Pro. Don't even worry about pano. That's where that is. If you're shooting hyperlapse, play around with that. No. I would stay away from video, photo, portrait, and quick shot. That's me. You can play around with that all you want. I'm just saying for me, I'm not wasting my time with any of these guys. I'm going to be over here maybe with hyperlapse, maybe with pano on occasion, and pro 95% of the time. Keep your ISO as low as you can at all times. You can make sure you set your white balance to something other than auto, and then play around with these settings here. And of course, know that you can change your resolution and your frame rate over here. And if you toggle into still photo mode, you can change your photo resolution. And know that this 40 by 96 and the 38 by 20, these are going to support JPEG plus RAW, and the 50 megapixel 8192 will only be JPEG. So hopefully that helps you guys. If it did, and you found something helpful, please click the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't, hit the notification bell if you want, and aloha for now. Happy flying, guys. Bye.